Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
And hello and welcome to episode 111 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this episode is being brought to you by our latest Patreon supporters, Matt Grice, Vivian Watts, and Phil Jerkwalski. You too can be just like these fine gentlemen and help support the show. Simply go to www.patreon.com/on the bench and pledge any amount from as little as $1 per month. Your contributions are greatly appreciated as they help with our hosting and production costs. And don't forget, every paid Patreon member gets an OTB sticker as well and goes into the fantastic Patreon Wheel of Fortune to win some really fantastic prizes. All right. Of course, this show would be nothing without the wonderful support of the Scale Model Supply. So let's have a word from our wonderful supporter, Scott.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's hobby paint. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with the Scale Modeler in mind. We have worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website at scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
And hello and welcome to the show. And in the studio, I've got Ian.
G'day Dave, g'day Julian, g'day everyone out there in Radio Land.
And of course, got Julian here as well.
Morning.
How are you, mate?
Good,
Not
very
bad.
good, very good.
What's news? What have you been up to since the last show?
Well, last show, what did we do? Last show, we decided to all go down to the Hobby Man.
That's right, we did too.
And of course, I've got to stop going when Julian's there. Such a bad influence.
Yeah, I got him to buy something again.
He didn't even have to say anything. He just used one finger and just pointed, looked at me and pointed, and there was $100 gone.
And what was it he pointed at?
The Bandai Godzilla.
There you go.
It comes also with the internal skeleton.
So you can do the skeleton separately.
Yeah. You can actually do it three ways. You can just do it without a skeleton. You can do it and the skeleton, or you can do it with the skeleton inside.
Yeah.
But how are you going to see if you do it with the skeleton inside?
Exactly.
Yeah. Could you do it like a cutaway?
I would never do that with Godzilla. Never ever do
It's
that.
not
with
a vehicle,
Godzilla.
Dave.
You don't do that to the big guy. But no, that was a really cool thing. Also, I noticed on Facebook our good mate Andrew Judson from SpecMod had a new figure come in.
And so you had to buy it.
Oh, as soon as I saw it, it's like, yeah, that's a must. That's a must.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I can't remember the name of it. It's Ed something 222 or something. And it's his, well, whatever colour you decide to paint it, but on the box it's this big yellow robot.
Right.
Like a warrior sort of robot with like a big cloak hanging off one shoulder, and there's a little kid in front of him pointing at something. And it just looked awesome.
Yeah.
So I picked that up, and then while I was on his website, I noticed they had another Cthulhu bust, so I picked that up at the same time. And typical dealing with Andrew Judson, everything went an absolute treat. And got the figures in the following week, came to me door, and I've just been opening it up nearly every second night and looking at it, and so SpecMod, great company.
Yeah, check them out. What about you, Julian? What have you purchased since the last show?
Have I purchased anything? I can't remember. Well, I finished the Musaroo.
Yes, and I think we spoke about it the last
we did,
show. Yeah, that Tim Holland from the Geeks won that one with that lovely forced perspective of the submarine with the.
Yeah, I didn't actually know who won. I just know that I wouldn't have won. Right? Yeah, I mean,
let the team down yet again.
What do you mean? If you expect, if you think that any one of us is ever going to win that ever again, given the pool of talent,
you never know.
You never know.
Well,
depends what the subject is.
If the wind's blowing the right way, I can put out a good model.
Well, if they ever do a car and you get it,
yeah,
you've got a damn good chance.
Well, if they ever do a car, I'll put my hand up for it.
We can't because we've got to go. Well, you could, I guess, but
I don't think the other podcasts are necessarily doing it as my turn, your turn kind of thing, around in a circle. So I'm pretty sure they're just
I will safely say, if it was my turn and a car came up, I would happily go, Julian, it's in your wheelhouse. Because it's our podcast, it's us. It's not just we're not doing it individually. We're doing it as a podcast.
Yeah, it's you're supposed to use the right tool for the job.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of tools,
yes,
I did another B&A order, which I seem to be doing weekly now.
Oh,
I can't remember the name. I think it's a Chinese company, and it's a 3D resin. Best way to do it is it's a holder for painting figures.
right.
And it's in the shape of a squared off O, and on the bottom of it's got this swivel with a little swivel clamp. So it's designed that basically you can hold this frame in your hand,
right,
and the figure sits in the middle of it. And what I saw online with some people using it, you can actually then have a much steadier hand when you're painting the details, because you can rest your hand against it as well. Because it works. It's something quite simple, but when you look at how to use it and how it does work,
that's smart.
I can see it being very, very handy tool. So I purchased a small one and a larger one.
Okay.
So next time I'm painting figures.
Yeah, well, you'll have to bring them in.
I was thinking about bringing them in, but I slept in this morning and I was a bit rushed.
Okay.
And yet you still got here before me, and I was
there.
early.
You two guys rolled up at the same time,
mate. I'd just gotten out of the car, I think, and walked to the front door when Julian rocked up.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, so that was a good purchase, along with a ton of brass rod.
So did we finish with you, Julian? Did you finish building anything? Finish buying anything, or?
I don't think I've bought anything because I've got way too many things to build. Right.
Yep.
Just the car kits alone, and I still want to do a diorama piece for as a backdrop for my car models. You know, I want to do a 7-Eleven or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or a diner or something.
Not a diner.
Oh, but you do mostly Japanese cars.
Yeah, exactly.
So you probably have something like
I want to do a convenience store. A 7-Eleven.
That's right,
Tokyo or something.
Yeah. Especially since, mostly the Japanese
Lots
cars.
of neon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you're going to do a 7-Eleven, you want to have the illuminated thing across the top, right?
Yeah.
And you can buy that, those little flexible lights.
You can, yes.
No, yeah. No, I don't want to do that.
Mm.
I want to do, you know how 7-Eleven has the facade or whatever you want to call it across the top with the green and
the facade.
That I've forgotten how that was meant to be pronounced. And for once, I did a Dave.
Yes, you did.
Yes. In any case, you know how it's got that red and white and green stripe that goes all the way across, and then you've got the logo within it.
Yep.
And because if you know how the Japanese convenience stores are, it's the same thing for Lawson, except it's a blue stripe.
Oh.
Right? Because they got three. They got 7-Eleven, Lawson, and then Family Mart.
Okay.
And I wouldn't want to do the Family Mart one because the 7-Eleven is more closely associated with car culture, if you don't know.
Well, I do now.
Yeah, it's quite a thing to sort of park your car in front of the 7-Eleven and take photos of it because you get the lights reflecting off the car. And
do they do much in Japan? They have much posters on walls?
Posters?
Yeah, advertising posters on walls. Here in Melbourne, occasionally you'll see, they just glue them to the wall.
Oh, maybe not.
No.
Maybe in some places, but it's not everywhere like it is here. Because that's almost like vandalism, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just thinking it was a great way of, since you're doing something Japanese themed, of doing a Mr. Spuckalo.
Look, if I was going to do like a diorama of Melbourne, like to shoot my cars in front of, that would be an interesting aspect.
Then you just hired David Hourigan.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of money because Mr. Hourigan demands a pretty penny.
I'd say he would, well, considering what he does.
Yes, he's a commission
builder,
commission modeler. You know?
But he'd be one to talk to if you want to do a Melbourne backdrop.
Yeah, but also like he does the part of Melbourne that we're unfamiliar with, right? Because he's western suburbs and we're eastern suburbs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he could do one for you if you asked him nicely.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
So
it'd be like, I love what you did with that backdrop, Julian. And it's like, no, I didn't do that. I paid someone else to do it for me. Right. I'm a modeler, but I paid someone else.
Yes.
What? No, I can't do that.
So what about you, Dave? What have you purchased?
Well, my shipment arrived from Shadow 3D, so I ended up in the package. I got a Antares 230 and 72nd scale, which is a rocket. Also got two Titans, one being the Gemini 1 and the other one being the ICBM, and also got the Delta 3? Delta 2, which is another great kit.
Which I'm looking at right now.
All in 72nd scale. That Delta 2 is really, really delicate too, so some of those parts in there.
Oh, are you telling me to be careful?
Yeah, I am. Fantastic service from Shadow 3D. I had an issue with
Shark's teeth?
Yeah.
On a rocket?
I had an issue with the decals from one of my other rockets, and I'd spoken to him. He said, I'll throw in some spare decals. And he ended up sending me a second kit with the decals and everything. So huge thank you to Shadow 3D. Go and check them out on Facebook, is where their current page is. So I've got a lot of rocket building ahead of me, but in the meantime, I'm stuck building not stuck. I'm
stuck.
I think I spoke last episode about a guy who came into our model club with a Saturn 5 and 144 scale because he can't build anymore, and I said, yeah, I'll build it for him. The F1 engines for the Saturn are just so shocking in this Airfix kit that I thought, I better do a print, but I'm having trouble printing on my printer, so that's sort of on hold at the moment while I get some mates to figure out what the problem with that printing issue is. Then I'll move forward and be able to finish that off. Then I can start on my own stuff, which I'm really hanging to build now at the moment. So
this doesn't feel like it's been cured.
No,
it feels rubbery.
I've got to go back in and do some secondary curing with some of this stuff. So no big issue. It is what it is. And
interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the appropriate way of doing these things are. Right? Like as far as like when you receive them.
If I get a 3D printed stuff, I'll always give it a quick wash in alcohol and give it another quick blast under the
IPA.
Yeah, give it another quick blast under the curing lamp just to double check that everything's okay, because you don't know.
You know you can overcook it with the UV.
Make it too brittle.
I've seen people print things and then it's the curing phase that changes their shape, and
no, I've never had any issue with anything.
It's case dependent.
I do a flash cure, so a quick wash in IPA, and then I'll flash it for about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the part size, and I'll have no issues. And that way, I know 100% when I'm then putting paint down that I'm starting on a clean surface, so with no sort of leftover stuff. And I've got a couple of other little projects on the side, but I don't want to talk to them yet because they're kind of secret squirrel stuff. So,
okay, cool.
Maybe as we sort of move forward, we'll be able to announce some of that stuff and also show you what I'm doing as well. But that's pretty much me, really. I've actually got some holidays coming up in about a week's time, and I've got a week off from work leading into Easter. So
I got 2 weeks off from now.
Oh, well, there you go. So I'm just playing and doing modelling during that time. So I've got to catch up because I've got so much on my bench, and I've got so many kits on the go at once. I've got to slam through them and clean.
Yeah,
Because you guys see my room, it's a frigging pigsty.
Oh yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Absolute pigsty. So
you're like one of those hoarders. So no, I made a start on my next build, which is the SMS Emden.
we're going to be talking about that later on when we speak
chat
to
to
Greg.
Lister.
Yeah, Bacon Bits.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll do a buddy build with him
Very good.
for Canberra this year.
I'm looking forward to that.
So I've been cutting into the hull.
Good. It needs cutting?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
oh yeah. The amount of aftermarket and scratch building is going into that thing. It's a pretty well. It's a Revell kit, so don't expect too much.
And it's not a young kit either. It's an old kit.
No, so it's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, that should be interesting. Well, so, well, obviously when we get Greg on, we'll hear a lot more about that.
We'll talk a bit more about it. Yep.
Very cool. Alrighty, let's have a quick look at listener mail, and it's very, very thin. The first one that we've got is from IPMS Moss, talking about MossCon 2025, which is a model contest and vendor fair in Springfield. Geez, I want to check which one. Missouri. It is Missouri.
MO.
So IPMS Moss is a Missouri Ozark scale specialist. There's a lovely little club over there. And as I said, on Saturday the 17th of May 2025, they've got a show on which is going to be at, if I can just have a quick look at the flyer here, 1501 East Pythian Street. I'll spell that Pythian.
Yeah, it's Pythian.
Yeah, Pythian Street, Springfield, Missouri. Doors open to the public, or vendors set up 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Doors open to the public at 8:30 a.m. Registration between 8:30 till noon, and then between noon and 3 p.m. is the judging, with the award ceremonies to follow. Categories are auto, aircraft, armour, figures, dioramas, ship, sci-fi, Gundam, and more. And it is gold, silver, bronze judging rules applying. Best of show, People's Choice, and the Richard Carroll Memorial Award. For IPMS members, it's $8 to get in. Non-IPMS members, $10. Juniors, $5 and $6. And youth under the age of 2 get in for a sawbuck if you're an IPMS member. If not, it'll be $2. And of course, if you're on a vendor's table, that's only around $20. So parking is free. There's raffle prizes. Unaccompanied children under the age of 12 are free. And spectator admission.
You mean accompanied children, not unaccompanied.
I didn't say accompanied.
You did say unaccompanied.
Okay, accompanied children under the age of 12 are free, and spectator admission is $2 per person. That's from Phil Jerkowski and also Nick Kimes of IPMS, Missouri Ozarks Scale Model Specialists. And, of course, they're sponsored in part by Hobbytown. Well done, lads. Hope it's a great show, and I'd like to hear how it went.
See some photos. Yep.
We have an email from Eric Richter, or Ritter, I should say, who writes, Dave, Ian and Julian, been a listener for about 2 years, and your episode 206 inspired me to actually build a 1/48 scale model. I had generally stuck with 72nd scale for airplanes and 35th scale for armour since I got back into scale modelling during COVID times. This would be my first 48 scale kit since I was in middle school around 1976-78 time frame. It's going back a bit. I chose to build Tamiya's BF-109E and paint it in the Swiss Air Service colours. And during the 48 and 48 weekend, I got the build completed and both the red and white applied, masking my own national insignias, which are pretty basic stuff for the Swiss, as well as a good start on the diorama base of a frozen pond. The whole thing was inspired by pictures of an actual 109 in Swiss service during the war. So for your viewing pleasure, here's my completed diorama, including some ground crew charging the onboard batteries. And he writes, P.S. I still hate painting canopies. Thanks for the motivation to try and challenge and spark my desire to get back into larger scales for aircraft as the eyes get older. And that's cheers from Eric in Philadelphia.
Nice build.
And it's a fantastic build given it was done in 48 hours. Absolutely sensational.
Yeah, that's what I found. Some of the work that people can knock out in 48 hours is, when you put your mind to it, is pretty incredible.
It is. And he was right in saying that the Swiss World War II stuff really stood out because they had very bold red and white sort of stripes on their aircraft. And from reading some of the memoirs of Allied pilots that flew into Swiss airspace, they did not muck around at all.
No.
They were quite happy to make you land.
Yeah, so they can bolster their own air force.
Well, not just that, but they were their trigger fingers were very light. Let's just say that as well. So
yeah, they weren't mucking about.
No. And that's a really great kit, Eric. You should be proud of that. And I think it's
totally
a
agree.
sensational build, especially in 48 and 48. That's all we have in regards to emails. So it's been very thin.
Very thin this week.
Don't forget, everybody, you can write to us at onthebench64@gmail.com. Send anything in that you want to send in. And also, don't forget, we have a SpeakPipe as well, and you'll find the link in the show notes. Just click on that, and you can leave us a message along with questions or whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Yep.
We love hearing the voices.
We certainly do. All right. Well, that brings us up to the Wheel of Fortune. And this week, we have got a OTB challenge coin.
Yeah, another challenge coin.
These are very exclusive, and
They won't be if we keep giving them away.
Well, even if you give one away every sort of second episode, that's only 12 a year.
Yeah. Oh, true.
Only 12 a year.
How many have you got?
12. I think I've got about 100 left.
Oh, only 100 left.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like some of them will be handed out at events and things that we go to.
No. We use the poker chips now for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can't know. No.
Okay. Very exclusive ones.
Very exclusive.
Okay.
They're metal.
Yes.
Well, how about we spin this wheel? Of course, it's a Patreon Wheel of Fortune, so if you're a paid-up member with Patreon, you automatically go into the draw, and we have to see who the winner is, and it is Fred Fernandez.
Hey, well
done, Fred. So I'll make sure that I send you an email and we'll organise to get
that on its way.
On its way out to you. All right. I think that is about it. We've got of course, we've got Bacon Bits waiting on the line to have a chat with us. So
great chat.
It's going to be a sensational chat. Greg is a sensational model builder, and he builds a lot of ships, and it's just jaw-dropping some of the stuff he comes up with. So this should be a really good interview. So let's have a quick break, and then we'll come back and hear what Greg, a.k.a. Bacon Bits, has got to say. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our wonderful guest, Greg Lister, a.k.a. Bacon Bits Models. G'day, Greg. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome from Canberra.
And how is Canberra this morning?
Just beautiful. Beautiful autumn morning. Not a cloud in the sky. Dogs have been walked. So here I'm just sitting in my study looking out into a clear blue sky.
Lovely.
And the reason we've got Greg on the show is because we're going to be having a bit of a deep dive discussion into ship modelling. But because Greg has to be one of the best ship modelers that I know locally.
Myself,
and on any given Sunday, the models that he produced would get a gold anywhere in the world.
And a girl anywhere in the world is what you're trying to say too.
I wasn't trying to say.
Yeah, I know. That's what that's where I thought you were going with that.
Yeah, because ship modelers always get the babes.
Greg, where did you first start modelling? Tell us about who Greg is and where you first started.
I grew up in the middle of nowhere in northern New South Wales on a farm. So my dad bought me a few kits as a kid. And then like everyone else, you know, you've hit later life. I went to boarding school, so it wasn't really possible to do anything there. And then I hadn't done anything till the later 1990s when I was a detective in organised crime in Sydney, and we were just constantly busy, but also we had a big drinking culture. My wife said to me, "You need to get a hobby." so I did. So I bought what was then the Hella HMS Victory, which is a big kit, and I'm fairly bloody minded, so I built that over several years, and then I started doing the Bark Endeavour from Artinial, I can't even pronounce it, the wooden ship. So I basically
yes. They got some great kits.
I pretty much spent the next 10 years scratch building that past the hull, and then I wanted to do something simple. So there was Artworks made a multimedia kit of a Varag, the 1905 one.
Yep.
So after building a wooden ship for 10 years, I actually find that quite refreshing and a lot easier. And then I did Emden, and then I kind of went downhill from there once I bought an airbrush. So I pretty much worked in isolation to that, and like I was on an online forum for Model Ship World. But then I was approached by Wiggins, who's a.k.a. Pete Davis. Is that club president?
yes, we know Pete very well.
yeah, you have. So he'd seen some of my stuff on Facebook. So he then got me to join the ACT club. So up to that point, I didn't know what a stash was until I met some of these people. Since that, with the club, I've been to Wollongong, Wagga, Penang as a group. So there's a group of us all about the same age. We've got Bertie, who does cars, Crack Santa, who does planes, is one of our chief judges. And you've probably heard of the world famous Chris Lehman, who we know as the Yeti.
Yes.
I think these days I pretty much give away most of my models once I've built them, the big ones, because I put them in a cupboard. I don't even think about them after that. So I'd rather someone else got some kind of enjoyment out of them. And recently I've tried to branch off and do a few different things so I can kind of learn different techniques and stuff. Like I recently just finished building 135th Schmel from Tiger Models, which is a 80 centimetre kit in 135th, which is quite large. I'm having experiments with poured resin, so just doing something different. So that's pretty much my history. I'm a shift worker here in Canberra, so I get the advantage of having lots of days off during the week when no one's around, so that just gives me time to potter away on stuff.
It's not just your ships, and we'll dive back into your wonderful sort of portfolio of ships that you've built, but you're also quite a dab hand at building other things. And I've just got your Facebook page up, which is Bacon Bits Models, and I'm looking at the Panhandle or Panhard that you've built. Panhandle, you idiot, Dave. The Panhard, and the other thing that really struck me too, you're quite adept at building some World War I stuff, particularly artillery. You've done a really good job on some of those pieces as well.
Yeah, I don't know why it attracts me, but they're not difficult builds, but I just find them attractive models.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
it is.
Totally agree. Especially when you got that multi-camouflage schemes on them.
Yeah, if you're talking about the big one, the 6-inch cannon which was Panzerworks. Was it Panzerworks? Anyway, the gentleman's deceased now, but he made a beautiful 3D print, which one of those things you see it, so I've just got to buy it. Because there's so much nice 3D stuff out there. And I've got a few more cannons for later projects, which are still sitting there ready to go. Yeah,
there's a sensational, I don't want to say diorama, I don't know what you quite call it, but it's World War I setting. You've got 2 tractor carriages, which are towing artillery pieces, plus a truck and a small car at the front of it. And I've seen that at... I think it was at one of the Canberra shows, and that was just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it takes up nearly the whole table.
It does.
You know, when something gets out of control, you start a project and you keep going, you're thinking like, oh, God, what have I done? I can't finish it now. That's pretty much where I was with that one. I thought, but that'd look good, that'd look good. And those 2 tractors were from Roden. That's probably one of the hardest things I've ever built. It was just so bad.
And they're not cheap either.
Oh, the Roden tractor's not that bad, but it's for the work you put into it. It should be a lot cheaper.
Yep.
Your journey as a ship modeler is just astounding, and the body of work that you've done. My jaw drops every time I look at it, and I hate sort of pigeonholing people, but you've got a particular style. I can sort of look at 4 or 5 models next to each other, and I can pretty much point yours out. And I'm not quite sure what it is about the stuff that you do, but I can definitely say, hey, I reckon Greg built that.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, I reckon I'd be right.
I think that a lot of that is he just does the best work in this area, in this country, I suppose, that I know of. And, if it's past a certain point, it's like, oh, well, it's got to be him.
So let's take a step back and just quiz you on your approach to building a particular ship model. Let's start from the very beginning right through to the finish. So how do you choose your subject?
Usually I'll start researching when I'm building something. I'll research the next model. Because you consider a ship's 200 metres long, so so much detail needs to go into it. So, and there's not really any kit which is you can build straight out of the box. You do need the aftermarket stuff for it. So I'll research then if I can, whatever plans I can find online. And generally you can find plans for a lot of things, whether there's books available, whether there's different people who might have resources available. And basically you'll see what's the kit got, what needs to be improved to do it at that point in time. So if a ship's lasted 20 years or longer, so if a ship fought in the First World War and the Second World War, what iteration comes out? Because sometimes it just becomes too hard.
Yeah.
If there's too many modifications that need to be done, it just really does go in the too hard basket. I also like to do stuff that people really haven't done before. Like I've built a Yamato, which I put a lot of work into. It's my first dabble with an airbrush. And everyone should build one Yamato as a shipbuilder, I suppose, but it takes a lot of time, and like any ship, they're just a money trap.
Yeah, don't we know that?
The sheer resources that you've got to put into it to make it look decent. And like you're looking under everything under Optivisors now, because I'm not any younger, you see the mistakes are glaringly obvious.
Yeah, especially when you're doing carriers. That's when you really start watching your money go.
Well, the amount of planes these days, and you think about the small anti-aircraft guns they have when Pontos models used to do them in PE and little brass barrels.
I know I've got one.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the Yorktown, the Essex class, you got 70 20mm Oerlikons.
Yeah.
And you've got to build them all.
Which is where, your next step is 3D printing. No matter how good a builder you are, you're not going to replicate what comes out in 3D these days.
Yeah,
it's just
that's
not
right.
going to happen. So realistically, you think, well, do I want to take this pain spending a month doing all those little guns, or do I just buy some, clean them up, paint them, done?
Yeah.
And it's a question for yourself whether you want to go to that.
Well, the thing also, when it comes to our age too, Greg, is we got more years behind us than we have ahead of us, so we need to get these models finished.
Yeah, well, exactly. why life's too short for rubbish kits, right?
That's it.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
So getting back on track, which Ian has successfully sort of derailed us, you start doing your research first. Is there a particular genre of ships that sort of appeal to you and jump out at you? Because I know quite a lot of your stuff, not quite a lot, some of your stuff is significantly sort of leaning towards the First World War, but then you've got quite a collection of World War II and post World War II ships as well.
I just think the complexity and the lines of that 1900 onwards really appeals to me, and I don't know what it is about it. It's just they're not simple. They're not covered. Like if you do a modern warship, you've got to have decals along all the OH&S lines around all the guns where your blast areas are and your radar areas are. So there's warning signs all over them. I built the HMS Kent, the latest iteration of it, and just the sheer amount of decals I had to buy to put all over the thing just to say, well, this is what the real thing has. Whereas the older ships, they've got nothing. I'm looking at my engine I did 10 years ago here, and the only decal I've got it on is on the stern piece. So to cut it short, I mean, I just find it more appealing to the eye to watch something that's that complex.
Yeah.
I think they do have a lot more character to them, you know?
Yeah.
Certainly the
Well,
way
it's a big time of experimentation too back then, because they've gone from the age of sail to the age of steam. So everything that went aboard of them, like coaling and whether they went to fuel oil and new technologies were coming, just hand over fist, between 1900 and 1914.
Yeah,
Very true.
absolutely.
Very true.
I just love how old timey they look.
Old timey. That's Julian's
I think
catchword.
that's what makes steampunk kind of attractive to me as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's no rules.
Yes.
Like I did last year when I did HMS Dreadnought for the Waterline one for Scale Act. The people online saying it was never painted in that colour. And you feel like saying, well, don't care. This is my model.
Yeah.
Do you, buddy? But you just kind of smile away, boys. Move on.
Yeah,
But it just looks so right in that colour scheme. To me, it looks so right. It looks well. I've seen it in real life, and I was super impressed with it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I did a HMS Dreadnought in a dazzle pattern that they used to have on the ocean liners in the late 1917s. So I retrofitted it a bit to HMS Dreadnought in 1907, and it looks, I like it.
I reckon it looks awesome.
it's the diamond pattern, the diamond pattern dazzle camouflage.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, it's not like it's super. Super perfect. It's like you got like sort of faded looking elements to it and lots of rust and things.
Yeah, it's weathered.
Yeah,
well weathered.
For a purist, they don't like rust or anything on a ship. Well, who cares? These things go to the ocean for months on end. So they cop a flogging.
Yeah,
So
Dave.
Sorry, go again.
Nah, it's Dave, because Dave doesn't like doing that stuff.
So when you're building a ship model, just for everybody else, there's sort of three styles. There's what we call a museum model, which is absolutely pristine clean. And then there's I don't want to use a word, a real model where you actually weather it and show all the weathering as well. And then I think the last one, I guess if I can sort of put them into three categories, is waterline. We're actually showing it in the water as well. I'm of the first school. I really prefer, particularly my modern sort of ships, to be just really, museum quality rather than sort of weathering. But it's.
Whereas I prefer to have them weathered.
You do, yeah. And it's a case of if the shoe fits, wear it.
Yep. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Look, I've seen those photos of the Zumwaltz with all the rust all over it. And, even though that exists, if you build a model of something that modern with that much rust on it, I don't think it looks quite right. But if you build something that's old-timey and it's got rust on it, it's sort of, your brain just sort of accepts it and goes, oh, yeah, that's what I would expect.
Well, the Americans did that experiment where they didn't paint one of their ships for a year during COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just a bombshell. It was rusted to hell. Like, it'd be great fun to do. I think it looked magnificent. But it just proves, these ships used to burn so well because they were covered in paint.
Yes, that's right.
So
yeah.
That's why they get rid of it these days. So I suppose to progress from what I build and how I build, you always got to do the hull first, obviously.
Yep.
Because then once you've done the outer hull, then the deck, because once you start handling it, you're going to knock little things off.
Yep.
And
usually when you're painting.
Oh, it's anything. Like, I have a rule to myself: never reach over the top of the model, because you're going to hit something, you're going to break a mast.
Exactly.
And repairing a mast is always a pain. And then the rigging itself. Actually I find quite fun, but you've got to prepare. You've got to know where these lines are going to tie off to.
Yeah.
So you can't just drop it once you've put a blob of glue on your deck to put a denier line to. You think like, well, then you just ruin your deck. So you've got to have something to belay it to.
Yeah. Yes. And you can buy all that with photo etch now anyway, those little hooks.
Yes.
And I always find with rigging, you start in the middle and work your way out.
inboard to outboard.
Yep.
I like to say.
Yep.
But there's a lot of reference books. I mean, the anatomy, if you're into ships, the anatomy of the ship books are just amazing. The amount of detail that go into them. And they're pretty much all still available. If you go on to abe.com, it's an online bookstore where you can get a cheap second-hand copy of nearly everything.
I think there's a lot of people who would like to try building ships, but they're put off by two things. Number one is the photo etch, and number two would be the rigging, which we've just spoken about. Do you want to perhaps just talk to how you approach both of those?
I suppose the best way, like being a wooden ship, having been a wooden ship builder, the thing that destroys most people with them, they'll go and buy, I think, the HMS Victory, big wooden ship, looks really, really good. I'm going to try one of those. And it takes years to get that good to build something that big.
Yeah.
So, and that's what kills a lot of modelers. So if you go and buy, say, a Yamato with all the trimmings straight off, there's a whole lot of skills you may not have to do it first. So build something small. I'm not saying 1/700. I'm saying buy a little destroyer from Tamiya, which is just going to come together really, really nicely.
Yes.
It'll paint up nicely, and you're not going to have any great problems with it. And even the more modern ships where you don't need to put railings on, if you do, it's very simple railings. There's not a lot of weathering needed, and you'll have a product at the end of the day which you're happy with. And then if the addictions bit you, then you can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. No, good analogy, that.
And while we sort of you just touched on manufacturers, then I'd have to say that Tamiya for a starter as a 1/350 scale would have to be the go-to.
Oh, very much so. More so than Trumpeteer, who's very hit and miss. I think these days they get a lot of their plans off World of Warships, which are just not accurate. Or they'll put something that was on a ship in 1910 and also something that was on the same ship in 1940, which just didn't exist. Or they go off the original builder's plans, if they can get them. And by the time, as you know, a ship's built from the plans, something's completely changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where that falls down to. And the resin kits, which are nice, but they don't really interest me that much because a lot of their details are very soft these days. And when you look at, if I can mention some of the 3D stuff that's out here these days, which is just so good, like you've got Micromaster, Black Cat, Model Monkey, L'Arsenal if you're into French stuff, and there's a heap of Chinese stuff which its details just blow your mind for things that are actually workable.
Yeah, also 3D. Don't forget 3D Wild.
3D Wild, they bring out whole big ships, but I can't do that yet. I don't know what they look like as a full kit if they haven't got.
We'll be meeting up in Canberra later this year, so I'll bring my Ryuju with me, and you can have a look at that.
Yeah. So, and there's not many ships that come out every year.
No.
There's HMS Lord Clyde, which is coming out this year, which is it didn't do much work, but it's got a massive cannon on the back of it, which kind of looks cool because it'll be rusty as hell when I build it. There's the French aircraft carrier, which was brought out by Heller many years ago, and they've repopped it into 1/350. That's from Trumpeteer, which I do want to do, but there's no aftermarket to go with it really.
Yep.
Unless you go to L'Arsenal, which is the French site, and they've actually got some pretty good 3D stuff.
Did you notice the AFE Club have announced a new Perry-class frigate?
Have I seen that?
It's 1/700 scale, though.
Yeah.
Oh, is that I don't look at 1/700 because I've got so much stuff stored up, spares in 1/350. I don't really want to change genre. If that makes sense.
I'm exactly the same with you, mate.
So am I. But I'm wondering though whether AFE are sort of doing this to test the water, whether they go ahead and build it in 1/350.
I'm inclined to think 1/700 is like it's made for a certain market where people don't have much space.
Yeah.
So they're going to build they want to build something small. They can build a lot of them.
Yeah.
As opposed to like my Yamato was like, Jesus, over 1 metre long by the time you put the base on.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm looking at a big crate here, which I've built for that type for the Schnell, which will go in it's 900 mil long. And a mate of mine built a crate for it so I can keep it in that till scale act. And then I got the question, what the hell do I do with it afterwards?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah, when you do
It doesn't fit in my my cabinet. It's too long and it's too tall.
it ends up like my Shikaku in a box in the garage.
No, my wife will say that's going nowhere else in the house. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
There's going to be no warships or anything anywhere else but your study. That's it.
Done it.
So you mentioned before that you give a lot of your stuff away. Do you actually hang on to some pieces and have them on display at home, or?
I've got stuff that I've won with that I've left here, which I keep here because I just still really like them. Like I've got a couple of the smaller aircraft carriers which are covered in planes and stuff, and I've got a what do you call it? The seedlets, which I did with it's got a blimp on top of that, which I did quite well with. That's a really nice ship. I don't really want to give that away. Eventually I will. I mean, realistically, you're thinking like it's just sitting in a cupboard. I haven't pulled it out in ages, but it's a nice kit. And and eventually I'll give my Dreadnought, which you guys would have seen last year at Scalac.
Yeah.
I'll give it away to somebody. I'm not really interested in making money out of this. It's just it's like having a meal. You eat your meal, you don't get your money back. You can't resell it.
That's true.
Let's take a step back and talk about that particular model with the blimp above it, because it's definitely an eye catcher of a model. And this is what I've noticed with you, with some of your builds, the way you actually display the ships as well. So you'll have the wooden plinth and you'll have some brass risers in which you set the ship on, and so you can see the full hull. But you'll do things like, have all of the anti-torpedo netting out. Which
that's really impressive.
Just looks absolutely stunning. And in this particular model that we're talking about now also has the blimp above it as well, which it's a beautiful model within itself. It's standalone, without the ship beneath it.
Yeah, with the Zeppelin, the Soldits and the Zeppelin.
It's one of those TACOM Zeppelins.
Mm.
There's when you look at the original box art for the seedlets, there's a Zeppelin up there. I think that's where I got the idea from, and it's not an expensive kit by any imagination, but it's a long kit. It takes a lot of painting and a lot of masking to get what a Zeppelin looks like, because there's no paint on the top of them, because that's how they bled out excess air and helium.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, it's a complex, boring story, which I researched at the time, and I kind of expunge all that until when I move on to my next model. But it's just kind of popped in. Boring little fact just popped into my head. I like the brass plinths on a model. I think they look good, and I think originally when some of the Asians started selling the brass pedestals for your ships to go onto, they're insanely expensive.
They are, yes.
Yeah. So for the sake of getting a bit of brass rod, polishing it up so it's nice and shiny, and fixing it into your hull, it works quite well, and I like it. So I don't glue the ships onto those brass rods.
They just slide on.
They just slide on.
Oh, okay. So they're not actually fixed on there at all.
No. And the smaller ships, I find like an eraser. So an eraser for like a rubber to rub out pencil.
Yep.
If you cut one of those in half, glue and drill a hole in that, stick it to the bottom of your hull where your plinth goes into, it slides in there really nicely.
Oh yeah, and it grip really well on the rubber.
It does grip really well,
That's a really
and
good
you're not
idea.
breaking anything.
So at what point do you then mount the model onto the plinth? At what point of the construction? When you're 100% complete, or when you sort of finish the hull, when you've done the painting to the hull? At what point do you sort of mount it?
And once I've done the hull and the deck, so when I'm doing the painting, the first thing I'll do is the bootstrap, which is the line where the water hits the side of the ship.
Yep.
Because traditionally, that's in the older ships, that's where the Royal Navy in particular, they use their best paint, because they knew that's where the tenders will come alongside. That's when it's going to knock holes in the paint job. Mm-hmm. So that's where you're going to get rust on the waterline. And then I'll do the lower hull, which I like to grunge up these days, because the anti-fouling stuff didn't really work very well back then.
No.
And they got grotty. Then I'll paint the upper hull, and then I'll want the deck on it with no details on it at all, apart from your belaying points. Mm-hmm. And that's when I'll put it on the plinth, and I'll put it on the deck. or on a piece of wood, which I'll wrap up in Glad wrap, so anything that drops off won't ruin the wood.
Yep.
And then you just build it piece by piece there. So all your, say, your bridge housings, your masts, funnels, your ship's boats and everything else, and your weapons in particular are painted off ship.
Yep.
So they can be just dropped in afterwards, so to speak.
Sub-assemblies.
Sub-assemblies,
Yep.
yeah, sub-assemblies. So whether a good one, I think best things I learned off the internet this year are go onto eBay and buy a box of tongue depressors.
Yes.
So it doesn't cost very much, and you can either glue your piece down to that while you paint it, or use masking tape or double-sided tape, and it doesn't take up much space and makes your piece easier to work on.
With the black boot line, and again, just for those modelers who are listening to us and they've got no idea what a ship is, so the black boot line is a demarcation between the anti-fouling and where the
Camouflage colour.
upper hull camouflage is, and it's
Yes.
and it's called a boot line because it's a black line that goes along. Generally, when I do it, I'll spray in the general area where it is black, and then this sounds really terrible, but I'll actually eyeball black tape all the way along it, the same sort of width as the boot line, and then spray up above that and below that. And then when I take the tape off, then I've got my black boot line. How do you actually go about getting your boot line on your hull?
Pretty much just what you said. I'll just do along the waterline. I'll paint with the airbrush the depth I think it needs to be on, and then I'll just mask over the top of that. So that's my demarcation line, wherever the width needs to be with some good masking tape. And then I can work below that. And once I've finished that, I'll mask off the bottom of it and then go up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yep,
it does.
yep.
I've seen some ship modelers actually tie themselves up in knots with getting the boot line 100% correct, and they'll have a pencil in a particular jig, and they'll have the hull sitting flat, and they'll run the pencil along the side. And while there's nothing wrong with doing that, unless that hull is secure on the ground when you're running that pencil line, you can still get a wobbly line as you're doing it, or an incorrect height on that particular line.
Yeah. I think, when you see a new tool comes out, you think, oh, that's going to be really cool. That'll make my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then once you've used it, you're going like, why did I buy that? I think I know exactly what you mean, and there's a lot of shipbuilding books have those in there.
Yeah.
And I think if you're just not proficient or confident, you're not going to use that, or if you're new to it. And once you've done a few, you're thinking like, I really don't need this.
Yeah.
Because masking tape just goes straight. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you're going to put something in water, you're not going to overcapitalise by doing too much on the bottom of the hull.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
And I've got to say that, again, people shouldn't tie themselves up in knots, because if you look at a real ship, within the paint jobs themselves, there's a myriad of imperfections anyway in
And
the
different
real thing,
colours
and
and-
different colours, and straight lines aren't necessarily 100% straight. So just go with the flow. And it's even in sort of modern shipyards, well, even less so, because they're trying to punch them out a lot quicker than back in the old days. But there's nothing perfect on a ship when they're actually doing the painting and everything.
I find I've had quite a few friends who have been in the Navy, and those that aren't officers basically thought they were professional painters. Because that's all they've seen. They're just constantly chipping and painting and chipping and painting and chipping and painting, because it kept them busy, but also just to keep the rust away. And I find also, like, I remember when I lived in Sydney, you'd go for a run every morning and you'd go past Garden Isle and you'd see all the ships there. And depending on what time of day it was, the grey looked different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people say to you, oh, it's never that colour grey. So it's pretty close, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. So with the brass rods that stick out from the hull for the torpedo netting,
Yep.
how anchored are they? Because I would be like, if I imagine them as just going up to the surface of the model, that seems pretty fragile to me.
They actually go in quite well, because they're all aftermarket kits, the ones I've done, so from Pontos that I've used. So you'll have your quite solid little brass rod, and then it goes into the hull by about 3 or 4 mil, super
Right.
glued in, and the the netting itself is a piece of steel photo etch, for a better word, and it has no weight at all. So once everything's in there at 90 degrees and super glued in, it's not going to come out unless you hit it quite hard. And you look at the thing like, oh, that must be really heavy. It's not. It sits there quite comfortably, and it will sit at 90 degrees if you want it at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because all the rigging you're putting on afterwards that goes on top of that, it will doesn't take any tension off it because it's denier line, so it's elastic, so it's not taking any weight.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, because I mean, ever since I saw like an image for some aftermarket sets, I think it was for the Mikasa.
yep.
Yeah, I thought, I got to do that one day.
Yeah, it just adds a bit more. With
Because no one does it. It's one of those things everyone says,
Looks too hard.
Yeah, you buy it, but then you don't use it because that's that's almost like building another model. You know.
Yeah. So
If
also you go on.
If you have a look on Model Ship World, or just type in HMS Dreadnought by RGL, you'll find my original build I did of Dreadnought, and I pretty much take you step by step how to do it. It's not hard, and it comes out. It looks really good when it comes out.
I agree. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's daunting, but once you've built one, you're like, oh, that was actually quite simple. And no one was complaining about it.
So so speaking about photo etch, what's your best method of preparing for your photo etch for building?
Once the piece has been built, I will priming it. I'll use Tamiya primer and Tamiya lacquer thinner at about 50-50, and just thinly spray that on. Once it dries, I find it holds really, really well.
You use I gather you don't use the metal primer, or you use the metal? No.
I've never used it. I've never needed it.
Right.
I find if you've got a big piece of metal, like a big piece of deck, like say on a modern ship where you have the aircraft, the helicopter landing deck at the back.
Yeah.
Because when you want to mask something, you can lift very easily.
Yes.
So it's got to be clean first. So if you're going to have a big surface area,
Just sand it.
I'll use nail polish remover first just to clean it back really well.
Yep.
Because the slightest bit of grease, when you mask it, it will lift.
Yeah. Do you sand your photo etch?
No, I've never have to. I've never had to. No.
What about
I've not sold it either.
Yeah. What about annealing the photo etch? And for those who are listening and don't know what annealing is, that's when you apply heat to it to
make it cherry red, and that means it's more pliable.
Don't make it cherry red. No, you've gone too far.
I only discovered doing that about 5 years ago. I didn't even know it was a thing. I just used to force bend it into place. Annealing, basically use a cigarette lighter and it'll soften the brass up so it makes it a lot more amenable to doing what you do. But you don't do it to little things like thin railings because they will burn.
Yeah.
They'll just disappear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because railing, putting ship's railing on is one of the hardest things about ship modelling.
Yes.
Because it's just so fiddly.
Oh, it is.
Yep. Well, that's a great sort of lead into we'll talk about how we all do that. So we'll start with you first of all, Greg. How do you put ship railing on?
I still do. I like doing individual stanchions. So you drill tiny little holes and put individual stanchions in there, and then just using denier line, that becomes your actual rail.
Bloody hell! In 1/350 scale.
Yeah, it's very doable.
Jeez.
It's just you just got to have the discipline to sit there and do it, like listen to a radio podcast or something like that. Or the really big pieces, I find people try and put, say, a 30 centimetre stretch of railing on, and they mess it up. I like to paint it first, get all the painting done on it first, and I'll make sure there's a tiny little trench line between the hull and the deck where I'm going to drop it into, and then I'll break it into bite-sized pieces.
Okay.
So it's easier to put a 4 centimetre piece of railing in than a 50 centimetre piece of railing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So piece by piece by piece, it all marries up. And essentially, with the stuff at this scale, unless you're using optimizers, you can't see a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I read up on the Northern Hemisphere, the ship modelers up there, when they're doing their railings, they do it in small runs, not because it's necessarily easier, but they've found that with the temperature fluctuations they get up there, if they do a long run of railings, it'll tend to pop because the metal expands and contracts within the heat and the cold.
Yeah.
And hence that's why they do it in smaller bites.
It's probably very relevant. I've never had to do that. Like, I mean, I lived in Cairns for a couple of years. It's so humid up there. I would hate to think about painting up there.
Yeah.
But you'd be dead right. Like, those places, people live like in really, really cold places. Not Canberra, far colder than Canberra. But then again, I've got central heating in my house. I'm not taking it outside. And,
I know. Yeah, that's the thing, because the people sort of say this up there, and I'm going, well, it's not like you're taking the model inside and outside. It's going to stay in your house the whole time.
Yeah.
And surely that's a fairly constant temperature over the winter and summer months. But anyway, well, for me, I'm slightly different to the way you do it, Greg, and I don't mind doing long runs of it. And like you, if there's a trench for me to drop it into, I'm more than happy for that to occur. But where that isn't possible, the very first bit I will super glue as a tacking point, and then I'll just slowly go along and tack white glue along that, and just slowly hold it into place with whatever I can until that sort of dries, and move on to the next piece and next piece and next piece. And midway through, I might use another bit of super glue again just to reinforce that sort of. And I've never had any major issues with doing it that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now in front of me. I buy acupuncture needles because you can buy a box of 100 of them. They cost nothing, and I'll use thin CA. So I'll use a thick, say, a belaying point, your first point, where you can use some thick super glue for your first fixing point, and then once it's in there, I'll put a drop of thin CA. Super glue along the line of the railing, so it will sit in there in the grooves and it'll hold quite well. And if you get a bit of gloss, you just go back with a paintbrush afterwards and put some matte flat over the top of it. Well, we're going to have wet spots or looking shiny using super glue. There's no way around that. Unless you're Julian, who's a genius at polishing things. Yeah. Even my friend Paul Dorrive will talk about polishing stuff for hours.
Well, you've just given me a great tip. So acupuncture needles. So I'm going to have to go and buy some of them now. They'll be perfect for super gluing.
Well, they're great because you can put a cigarette lighter on and just burn the CA off them again.
Yeah. Do they come in different sizes? I know nothing about acupuncture needles.
Well, I'm looking at one right now. You can buy them in, this one's 10 centimetres long. And you're not going to, you only need the needle to be about 1 centimetre long, because that makes it easier to manage and control putting the glue on the model. If it's reaching out from 10 centimetres, but no matter what ones you buy, you just cut them down with a piece of pliers. Sure,
and I guess the thickness of the actual needle itself would be the same right across the range.
They're tiny. It's probably, I'm going to say, maybe 0.01.
Okay, well, good. I'm off to Temu and do some shopping after this.
But it's like you buy 100 of them when you're buying pipettes or your paint.
Yeah.
Pipettes.
Yeah,
we know the story about the pipettes.
Yes.
I don't use my pipettes anymore.
Don't you?
I still got a box of about 800 of them.
I use them all the time, and I don't know how you cannot use them.
I just pour it straight from the cup from the bottle these days.
Well, with SMS you can do that.
Yeah, but
no, I even do that with because I spray a lot of gloss, and I don't use SMS gloss, right?
But
gloss clear.
But hang on, but if okay, you're a weirdo, Julian. So don't you if you're going to mix paints with, say, a ratio of, like unicorn tears or something like that, I know you're going to say I don't use unicorn tears, but anyway, you can count the drops in, so you know if you're doing, 20
I know what you're talking about. I used to
to
do that sort of thing, but now I can just sort of wing it.
You eyeball it.
I don't even eyeball it necessarily. I just basically pour stuff into the cup and then spray it and then adjust as I do my test sprays, and then.
Julian the Heretic, living on the edge.
Yeah, I must admit, I just make it up as I go along.
Oh my God, there's another one. What the hell's going on with the world?
Get on our level, Dave.
What the?
It's when you've been doing it long enough, you know what you're doing. So getting back to...
there are 50 shades of grey, so it's how you go with those.
That's right. So getting back to ships, that Greg and I and a few other people are doing a buddy build.
Oh,
Ship
really?
Buddy build, yes.
What are you building? What are you guys building?
The Revell 1350 scale SMS Emden.
Oh, and the Emden is famous in Australian history because
It got pretty much smashed to pieces by the Sydney off the Cocos Islands.
in World War One.
World War One,
Yes.
1914.
Yes.
So-
It's a great story. It's actually a really nice kit once you use the aftermarket.
And boy, do we need to buy a lot of aftermarket.
When we see it at Scale Act, a friend of mine in Germany, because to buy it, it's ridiculous now. There's online, it's just costs an obscene amount of money.
Yeah, $300 for some of them.
I've got a friend in Germany who's going to get me one at like normal prices. He's going to send it over, and I'm going to build a second one straight out of the box.
Ooh.
No photo etch, nothing like that. It just shows that pure difference you can get in the kits. And I know Ian's done it as well. We've got the little ships, boats, and guns from Micromaster, and the detail is so good.
They're insane, aren't they? Just the surface texture on the outside of the boats is just so good. That diamond pattern, I don't know are they doped? I don't know. Thin plywood, and you get that diamond pattern.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
It's got that in 1350 scale. It's just they're just insane.
I think a lot of people were burnt by when was it Shapeways?
Yeah.
Show these 3D renders of something. Oh wow, that looks really good. Then you get the item, and you think, what utter rubbish? Why did I spend money on that?
Yes.
So, but what you see is what you get with this kind of stuff. Like the details, just amazing. So going back to Emden, as a club we went to Penang last year for the Malcolm, which is the Malaysia International Model Show, and the hotel we were staying at up on the roof, they had a bar which was horrible, of course, and you could look over the harbour there where the Emden came in, and that sunk that Russian ship where the captain had the keys to the armory and he was basically in flagrant somewhere else.
Yes, that's right.
But it's a beautiful harbour. And there's the quality of the models in the Asian market's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just it's so different to what we do. It's not worse or better. It's just different.
Yes. Yeah.
And lots of young people who are super motivated and super happy to model.
Yes. And in fact, some of the world-leading sort of ship modelers have come out of Korea as well.
Yes, well, I've met some of those guys. I've met the guys from HS Models and Pontos and the rest of it. Unfortunately, there's a massive language barrier there.
Yeah.
But I met a Japanese gentleman when we went on a durian tour, and he and I just spoke for about an hour using Google Translate.
So that's dedication. That's modeler's dedication.
Oh, this guy was really good. He's an amazing modeler. Far better than me. But he's I don't know, he's probably about 70 or so, and he's just one of the world masters at it.
Yep.
And try and get some information out of him. So a lot of it is the quick dry resin using the UV lights.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff he's doing with water for that. Which
Right.
was good. And water's the whole new art doing water.
It is.
Doing a deep pour resin or the other stuff.
And the Koreans seem to have nailed doing water in a way that is so realistic. There's just
I would say it's just mostly one guy who's really
True.
good, and then you got probably some copycats.
Yeah.
But he's made it all on his own, right?
Yeah, I think the guy you're talking about, he does a lot of commission work. So he's got a big workshop,
right.
And some of the stuff he does, I'd love to replicate. And I'm thinking but once you've done one thing in resin, you think it's not that it's expensive; it just takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really increases the footprint.
Also, there's no way he could afford that much resin for hobby stuff.
No, that's what I mean. You must be doing it for commission.
Like it's industrial quantities,
Yeah,
Yes.
but surprisingly, I've got resin here which I've used now. It's not that expensive to buy the 2-pack stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not not exothermic, so it doesn't get hot.
Right.
And it dries in about 3 days really well. It's not going to melt your model. You can put your model in it, and you don't have to do a big base. So all I did was went to a local Perspex shops and bought a piece and stuck it together myself, made sure it was waterproof, and then you just drop your boat in that. So you can make quite a nice demonstration piece or a nice box piece.
Yep. So, yes.
So I've gone off track again, sorry.
That's all right.
So getting back to the Emden.
Yes.
So, so been spending lots of money, getting lots of accessories. And then last night I decided to go down that rabbit hole the rabbit hole, I should say, for the infamous fourth funnel.
Ah,
So for listeners at home,
Well, at one stage, to camouflage the Emden,
yep.
they added a fake fourth funnel to make it look like a Allied cruiser. So, but it's more like a hexagon shape, so it's not
Right.
exactly a round funnel.
Yep.
So I've been looking
and there are
into
no photos of it anywhere, so you can't be wrong, man.
No. But I did find some really nice 3D renders online last night showing the fourth
okay.
funnel, which I'll email them to you this afternoon. You can have a look at them. Don't know how accurate they are, but being no one's got any photos of it. But
Well, at the end of the day, it would have just been wooden canvas, wouldn't it? So
Well, what the skipper said when he in the book is basically that it didn't look anything like a funnel unless you're on the horizon.
yeah.
So I don't know if I can bring myself quite to do that because I think my OCD kind of gets me to think like I'm just not happy that it's right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean Ian shouldn't do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, just make it a bit different to everyone else's.
Yeah.
But I was looking into it, not saying I'm 100% doing it, but I was looking into it.
Yeah. So for anyone else out there who's listening, I'll keep documenting the Emden build on my Bacon Bits Models site. So if you want to join in and you've got the Emden in your stash, pull it out, have a go.
Yeah.
Because we'll just do it step by step. So, and then if you're in Australia or you can get to Scale Act this year, bring along to Scale Act, where Ian and I will be discussing it in person.
That's right. You
Yes.
and Ian are doing a
Workshop.
in at Scale ACT this year,
On shipbuilding.
and you're going to be talking about the Emden and building it.
Yeah.
And I've also got some stuff sent over from Simon at Micromasters I can show people, and the bigger pieces.
Yeah,
How
I got
to
some
work-
too. They're awesome.
How to work with and how to use 3D printed stuff.
It's funny you mentioned Simon because his work is just sensational, and I fully recommend people go and check out his
Oh, yeah.
website.
And he's so quick with postage, like
And-
same day postage.
And the way he posts it as well, it always
Oh.
arrives with no damage. But I've tried to get him on the show, and he's really shy. He doesn't want to come on the show.
He is really shy.
Yeah.
I've been kind of bullying him into it for a couple of years, and he just he's quite mercurial. I think he's an Englishman who's moved to the South Isle of New Zealand. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah. Well, he chose a nice part of the world to move to, the South Island.
Yeah, because
it's gorgeous
along
out
with
there.
getting
Well-
the boats for the Emden,
Yeah.
I also got the main armament for HMAS Australia too. Wow, what a difference they are compared to the Trumpy bits. Wow, they're just incredible.
There's no comparison at all. It's just not. I don't think they could do that with the technology they have for the Trump's new stuff.
Yeah. So I can easily say he's going to be getting a lot more of my money in the future. There's a lot. Once going through his website and going, I could use that. That's going to make like his Olicons. Like I'm going to buy so many sets of those.
Yeah.
Rather than have to make them up out of brass.
He's super busy too. Like he keeps needing to take a week off every month just to have a break from it. So he's got the whole world after his stuff. So eventually, when he's had enough of it, it's going to leave a massive hole in the market because he specialises in the RN stuff. Navy
Yeah,
stuff.
that's right. Yeah.
And it's of the First and Second World War. But if you go onto his site and see some of the gun turrets he's done, like I've done my Dreadnought, I did. Or it was Micromaster stuff. I've done the Roma, the Italian battleship. All the guns from that are from Micromaster, and all the secondary guns, and they just look amazing. There's no comparison to the other things.
Yeah. Great to deal with, and he gets everything out to you in a timely fashion, and it's just the work he does is just exquisite. Yeah. And he's really had the 3D printing stuff dialed in for a long time.
He
now.
must have some pretty expensive printers.
I want to pick your brains, Greg, about modern ships and how you managed to pull off the oil canning effect. And for those people who don't know what I'm talking about, if you look at a modern warship these days, it's got oil canning on it, and that's where the ribs and everything is, that the metal has sort of been sunk in or been pressed in from being Well, even the World War II destroyers, they were notorious for being oil canned after a period of time at sea.
Class destroyers.
Yeah, how do you pull that off?
It's just airbrushing. You'll have your hull plates, and then you'll basically I just use masking tape. So I'll put, say, 5 pieces of masking tape vertically along the line, and I'll do a very, very thin grey line, which will be a little bit lighter than the hull colour. So you want to get it about 1 mil, or maybe 1 or 2 mils with your airbrush, and then you just keep moving your piece of masking tape along the hull. So I suggest you use a pencil and mark out where you want your hull line, your panel lines, not your hull lines, your ribs to be.
Yep.
And you'll spray a line, move your masking tape, or spray a line, move to the next piece of masking tape, which might be a quarter way down the hull, then halfway down the hull, then towards the end of the hull. And then you'll go back to the first bit, move your piece of masking tape along, and just go that way. Then you'll get your distances.
So you'll do
Yes.
So you'll do the base colour first, and then come back over and do the ribs after that, and then you'll come back and blend it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so you kind of make it stark, and then you'll get like a colour that's halfway in between, and then you can mist it over the top of that so it fades.
Yep.
So it'll look silly if it's just too stark.
Yes, it does.
Definitely,
Yeah. And I've seen recently some manufacturers even trying, more so on aircraft, I want to say, where they'll actually do that sort of oil canning effect on aircraft and actually mould it into the plastic itself. But
if you look at the guy, is a Tasmanian guy who does the box art for Trumpeter. He's an ex-pastor, he's ex-sailor.
Randall Wilson.
Randall Wilson,
yeah. If you look at some of his older stuff, he actually does it by hand because he's a beautiful shipmaker. He builds them from scratch.
Yeah.
He does his own oil canning by hand on the ship. It's not paint. He actually does it.
Wow. You're right. I have seen him do that because
Yep.
I remember him, yes, I do remember him going in and shaving all that plastic off and sanding it in and all that. Yes.
Yeah. It way too much hard work for me, but it's in a larger scale.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, there's just people we've got here in Australia that are just experts and stuff, like anything Australian. For Australian Navy, Rob Morrow, he's got his own. He's on the Facebooks. He was great when I did HMS Vendetta. I did her in her first iteration when we got her from the Poms in 1924, and then a final iteration in 1945. What it looked like then, how it had changed, and this were kind of Povy Nation back then, so we had to keep using our ships till they fell to bits.
Yeah.
And it changed completely, and I heavily oil canned that as well because it would flog by the time it was at the end of the war.
The last thing I want to chat about, and I see you perhaps struggle with it as much as what the rest of us do, is trying to take a decent photo of all the ship in one shot. You can't do it because it's so damn long.
Yeah, I know. I've actually got quite a good digital SLR, but I need a 50mm lens for it.
Wide angle lens.
So a 50mm lens will just give you a greater depth of field, so you can get more in there. I've been trained by the government how to use cameras. That's when it used to be wet film, but people didn't know you were taking photos of them. But most of that was with the long lens. So if you've got a good 50mm lens, it is difficult. But these days with video, there's really no excuse on a phone. You can video the length of the thing and run the length of it to get your photos. But as you know, there's nothing better than turning up and seeing the detail that goes into a ship. Like the guy from Sydney who won the best ship from Scalac last year. Yeah. He did 1/700, and he had figures in 1/700. All over the place.
That was an amazing build.
Yeah.
It was a Japanese transport.
Language barrier, but
it was a Japanese transport, wasn't it? You built?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But beautifully built, tiny little ship. So with the gold, silver, the bronze thing we use at Scalac now, it's like you can build a ship and put it in as a novice if you have never built one before. It's not about winning anymore. It's just about being part of it and seeing what people think of your work.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that one.
Yeah. And you've even sort of embarked into some science fiction stuff and some fantasy or stuff that you've built there as well. So you're not 100% just a ship modeler, but you do sort of poke yourself out the other side now and again to do something completely different.
I think it's healthy in a way if you're going to keep yourself interested in the hobby or in a hobby. You learn different stuff and just see where your imagination takes you. You know, I mean, some people are perfectly happy building the same Airfix P51 for their entire life, and if that's what they're happy to do, you do you. It's just that's what I like to do. So that's what I'm happy to do. I think if someone actually asked me to make something on commission, I couldn't do it because I don't want to work to a timeline.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I also don't want to just build things that I don't want to build.
Yeah.
And there's that.
It's still a hobby.
True.
But if
quickly, the Moosearoo Cup, what happened there?
Well, blame Julian because he lost it for us.
Oh,
Look,
Julian did a great job.
Look, this is in the early days of the Moosearoo where you know, the skill level was lower, so to speak.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thank you. I appreciate that, Julian.
It was more like, if you remember, the very early ones were more about getting the other guy to build something that they weren't used to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now it's all try hard, you know.
Yeah, try hard.
yeah, that's what I would call it. I mean, that's a very Australian expression, isn't it?
Yep.
Look, I've got to admit the one that Tim did from the Geeks, where he had that forced perspective of the, I think it was a B-24 in the background. It definitely was, a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it opens your mind up to doing different stuff too. You think, I never thought of doing it that way, and this might open up a new pathway for you to do your next build.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's interesting you should say that because, as much as when I came back into modelling, it was ships and submarines, and I did them sort of ad nauseum. It gets to the point where if you sort of step out of that genre that you're comfortable with and do something different, it makes you a better modeler, I want to say, because it's sort of forcing you to look at something different and do something different than what you're used to.
Yeah, well, you're going to learn new skills, and those skills you can always cross-pollinate to other genres.
Yeah, I mean, this one wasn't... Well, I've never done a submarine before. I've never done dust effects before like that. And I definitely learned some things. And I also learned that I don't want to do them in the future.
Yeah, that was a kind of a tough learning lesson for you, though, I suppose, Julian. I think this is why, but I suppose it comes. Have they decided what's next?
No, we won't find out until Nationals, US Nationals, and that's where it gets announced what the next one is. And
Dave's the next builder.
Yeah, I'm in the crosshairs for that one. So
you know it's going to be a car, don't you?
Yep.
No, don't say that.
It's got to be a car. I would love it to be a car.
No.
Yeah, the perfect thing to piss both you and me off.
Yes, that's very true.
It's something eclectic like a Renault CV7.
There's something about French. There's something about French builds I do like. I must admit.
Except for the Renaults.
It's just I don't know, something about French because it's just so. You're going to say ugly?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, actually, some of the French warships prior to the 1900s with that sort of fallback sort of hull line and everything was just gorgeous.
Oh, and like I find the Italian ships the same way. When I was building Italian ships, I did Zara and I did Roma. So you're going online for advice, and the Italians were so forthcoming with really good, friendly advice on the online forums, for the Facebook forums. The sheer volume of photographs those guys have of their ships, and this is like leading up to the Second World War. And they'll chip you, says, no, it was never this way, or this date, it was this time. And so when I did Zara, the corrections some of the Italian guys helped me make, so you can make the most accurate ship for the point of time as you could.
Oh, wow.
No. They're certainly very proud of their Navy, aren't they?
They are, the poor buggers.
Considering how poorly they did.
Well, what's so much poorly?
Those particular, like the Roma and Zara, that's very unfortunate, isn't it? They all sunk in the same spot.
Well, I think, if you... I mean, let's face facts. The Royal Navy just sort of outfought them.
Yeah.
I mean, because their ships, ship to ship, the Italian ships are as good as anything else on the water at that time.
Except they had really thin armour.
Yes.
What stuff? I mean, they didn't have radar.
Yeah.
They just pinged them with the radar, and they knew
Yeah.
where they were. They bracketed them and just kept lopping shells on them. They didn't have a chance.
Yeah, the Mediterranean Fleet, Royal Navy outfought them for sure. But even the modern
And the
stuff.
Australians were there too.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, that's
yeah.
right. We played a part.
But the modern Italian stuff is, it's really, really interesting. The Garibaldi, that's an interesting, aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of, isn't it the Iranians have now got a carrier?
No, they don't have a carrier. No.
I think they got a
something
training one. They practice bombing.
Yeah.
No. All right. Well, let's bring us up to pretty much the close of the discussion, I think. And for people who want to reach out and find you, Greg, where can they go to find your fantastic body of work?
I'm RGL, it's 3 letters, on Model Ship World. So if you want to know, and I've got a list of the ships that I've built on my Facebook site for Bacon Bits Models. So you'll see most of the things I've built there.
Terrific. So that's on Facebook, Bacon Bits Models. Go and check that out and have a look at the gallery there. And you post quite regularly in that with updates of your latest builds and everything. And I'm assuming we can follow you and Ian on your Emden build?
Yep. Well, I started mine.
Yeah, I've started mine. I didn't want to. Yeah, I probably thought it was easier leaving it on my own than bombarding the bench site, or on your bench site.
Yeah.
No, well, that's fine. Bombard away.
Yeah.
No problem at all. And just quickly, I noticed that you slipped into the Australian War Memorial just the other day and had a quick look around.
My sister's over from the States, so we decided to go over there yesterday. One of our club members is a curator at the War Memorial.
Ah.
So we went in with him to have a quick look around. And the first thing you see when you walk in there is some of the stuff from Emden, the heraldry. But he also showed me the plans for next year at the War Memorial. They'll have a separate presentation just for Emden v Sydney.
Oh, terrific.
Ooh.
Yeah, they'll have an Emden gun. They'll have a Sydney gun there. They've still got the actual, the heraldry for Emden. They've got the ship's bell has got its own story. And, yeah, so it's going to look really impressive. And the new War Memorial, once you see the plans for it, is going to be great.
Yeah, I've deliberately stayed away until they've 100% completed it.
I'm on the same boat.
And then we'll go and check it out. But for this year, I think I've got to take it into the dinosaur place.
This year we're going to go. Finally, going to get to the dinosaur museum.
If anyone gets a chance when they have the open days at the annex at the Australian War,
we did that a few years ago.
Yeah, I've done that as well. It's so worth it, especially getting a tour of that. We have so much stuff.
I know, and all the stuff that's was it 700,000 items they've got stored away? Yeah. It's a phenomenal amount.
Well, there's three to four warehouses just full of stuff. You go to one, it's just full of artillery pieces.
Yeah. Yes,
you go to another. You go to another one, and they had we went. They had the Lancaster, the P40E,
was in there,
the Messerschmitt 262, the Messerschmitt BF 109G,
the FA-18,
the two FA-18s,
2 FA-18s, yeah,
the Hickory.
Well, they're all going to be parked at New War Memorial.
Yep.
Oh.
Cool.
So it's going to be pretty spectacular when they do it.
Well, and also people can come up and actually meet you at Scale ACT, which is coming up in November, because you and Ian are doing a workshop, which is I thoroughly recommend if you're into shipbuilding or when you dip your toe, just come along and check that out. And don't forget #1000 for Scale ACT.
Yes, we've got to get 1,000 2025.
Yeah.
I like to say 5 for 25.
5 to 25.
But also they're on the ACT Scale Model Association. We've got builds on there on YouTube. So my presentation from the last 2 years is on there, and other people who actually can model, like Lincoln Wright and Sam Dwyer.
Yes. One thing I forgot to ask you before we go, and it is the how you do your cage antennas. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about,
black art.
cage antenna is a antenna, and it's got like spreaders in the middle of it, which is like in a star. And at the tips of each star, you've got the line going from one to the next one to the next one. So you make a long tube with all these sort of antennas off them.
Okay, so if you obviously on the header of my Bacon Bit site, you'll see HMS Dreadnought with those spreaders. So you can get very, very thin wire. So the spreaders themselves, you'll put a normal thin wire right down the middle of it. So that will give you and these things were made out of copper, so they sagged. So you'll run it from your mast to whatever your belaying point is on the ground, and then I'll use denier line on the outside.
Right.
So very thin.
Right, yep.
Yeah, so metal in the middle, denier line on the outside. Or you could, if you could find it thin enough, you could do the whole thing in metal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting that sag. It's what you need to make it look accurate.
Yep.
Right, there you go.
It's a black art.
Well,
No, it's just patience.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
I did it 3 times, and I still knew there was a mistake there. And I think, like, I'm just not doing it again.
Nah.
Yeah,
I guess that point.
yeah, I'm never going to do that. Never.
Well, I'd like to have a
But
crack at it one day.
I'm never going to polish a car either, Julian. So we're wrong.
There you go.
Look, I'll just say that polishing comes natural to everyone. All right.
Oi!
Welcome to Saturday morning.
See what I'm going to put up with, Greg?
Yeah.
Well, we all brush our teeth, don't we?
But having spoken to Julian a few times now, he does like to go into things deeply.
Very
does.
So as long as he brings some antihistamines up to Canberra this year, he'll be fine. So
Yeah. I was loaded with them last year.
Yeah.
I was not taking any chances. I was not going to have my weekend ruined.
The year before, I seriously thought you were going to die.
Yeah, I know.
It didn't look good.
Well, it seems whenever we go away with Julian, he's sick because when we were in the US, he was crook as well.
Yep.
When we went to Canberra with him, he was crook with hay
You just
fever.
need driver's license Sudafed. So the Sudafed you have to show your driver's license for.
That's it.
If I travel internationally with that stuff, I might get in trouble.
That's right. You probably would get in
Nah,
trouble.
you don't need a script for it. You'll be fine.
Famous last words.
Oh, gosh. Greg, it's been fantastic talking to you, and can't wait to catch up with you again, mate, when we're up in Canberra
Oh, definitely.
this year. And I'm sure we're going to have a few ales together and some more laughs. Once again, please, if you're on Facebook, go and have a search for Bacon Bits Models and have a look at the fantastic gallery and the body of work that Greg has done. It's absolutely sensational. We've only sort of just scratched the surface with a lot of the stuff that you've done. And as I said at the beginning, and I mean this wholeheartedly, on any given Sunday, you could be a gold winner at any international modelling show. That's a fact. Great work, mate.
Yeah.
Thanks
Have a
very
good
much.
weekend, boys.
And we'll definitely catch you in Canberra this year.
You shall.
No worries. Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Well, that was a really great discussion with Greg.
No, he's a font of knowledge.
Sensational model builder. Oh my God!
Yeah.
And this is what really excites me about when we have people such as Greg on, because there is such a massive pool of talent in Australia.
Yeah.
Some sensational model builders that anywhere else in the world they would be comfortably in gold anytime they enter a model. And there's so many of them, and I like uncovering these people and sort of shining a bit of light on their work so the rest of the world can see and share with us how great their stuff is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, his work does make me want to build a ship. But I know that I'd get just my foot in the door, and then I'd
Get bored.
I'd want to shelve it. I'd want to just move back onto cars or something.
Yeah.
So I could be polishing a car right now, and
Rather than doing rigging or working with photo etch.
I mean, just like having to deal with the because you know how it is, let's say you start building cars and you have to build 4 or 5 before you even sort of wrap your head around what the conventions are, right? And so if you were to go into your first ship with a whole bunch of aftermarket You're like, oh, I stuffed that up. I'll have to do it. I know how to do that differently next time, or at least you think you do. But you have to go like 2-3 deep, and that's 2 years, right? Because like some of those builds are extremely long.
Well, this Emden, I'm not using. I don't think I'm using one bit of plastic superstructure.
Okay.
Cut it all off and make it out of photo etch.
Yeah.
Fun.
See, like the thing is, like, what? So what do you do when there's like glazing when you got glass? Because you know, like there's like especially around like where the
what I do for that is there's an old trick. You get a mechanical pencil and just colour that in grey.
Oh well,
not if you do it in photo etch.
In photo etch.
Oh, in photo etch, no.
No.
You can leave it open.
Leave it open.
Yeah.
Or if you really want to go hard, just get that
a crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Yeah.
Is it crystal clear?
Yeah, crystal
clear.
What's that?
It's
stuff that makes canopies.
Yeah,
it makes glass.
Makes it like you can fill it like portholes and that, and it makes like clear glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like a sort of viscous clear liquid that you sort of smear it and bridge it across like an opening in it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're small enough, you can use white glue even, because that clears.
Yeah, but white glue after a while goes yellows.
That's true.
And gets sticky and tacky.
Yeah.
Wonder how resin would work.
Oh well, there is clear resin. You could do that. Yes.
Yeah, if you could
and then just hit it with a UV light.
And
so bang, it's done. Yeah. Have to have a look at some.
I was thinking of that myself. Yeah, maybe you can use clear resin.
Well, when Greg touched on it in the interview we had, where he was talking about clear resins for water effects. I think I need to have a dive in and look a bit deeper into that.
Yeah.
You know what? I've only seen it done once, but I remember seeing one of those resin pour dioramas.
Yeah.
And the ship wasn't perfectly straight.
Yeah.
It was off leaning to one side because it was going through a swell.
Yeah.
That I never see done anywhere else. Only that one time. Every other one, it's like here's a boat that's sitting perfectly flat and level in the water.
Yeah.
And it's only got choppy, sort of like little peaks on the waves and stuff like that around it, and never any actual sort of actiony sort of looking water,
like a North Sea style.
Yeah,
we got the
with
big
the bow
waves
lifting right out of the water and off at an angle.
Cresting a wave. Yeah, that'd look quite dramatic.
Yeah, it would.
Well, I mean, like it seems like people either do them with the water dead flat, almost, or they do too much. It almost looks like a tank coming over over a trench. It's like you have to be like
Super
Moby
dramatic.
Dick levels of action. You could just have it sort of somewhat believable.
Yes. It's very true.
Oh, jeez.
So no.
All right, gents. I think that's pretty much it for the show.
Yep, it's been a great show.
It has.
So adios, everyone. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Julian?
Yeah, I'll see you. I'm going to have to chip away at these car malls that I've got going on so I can move on to something new.
I've just got more sanding.
Yeah.
Sanding and drilling this time. So I'm going to drill out on the hull where all the little handrails are. Climb up now where the anchor points is.
Okay.
Very cool. All right, well, thanks very much for being on the show. It's been good here to be with you yet again, and we'll be back in a fortnight with something else to talk about. Until then, see you later.
Bye.
Thanks for being with us, and don't forget there's a whole host of other wonderful podcasts for you to listen to with modelling-related subjects. Just go to modelpodcast.com for the full listing of other fantastic shows that are there for you to listen to. And don't forget, when you actually listen to the show, leave a rating so that it can be found by other people as well. We'll be back in a fortnight. Thanks for listening.